Noon, and today we look at Joshua 22 through 24. We finish up this book, and chapter 22, as the Israelites have been conquering, capturing, taking possession of the land that God had promised them, the warriors of the Reubenites, the Gadites, and that half-tribe of Manasseh that had claimed land on the other side of the River Jordan, that had planned to stay there, had been with the Israelites, in Jordan, working to take possession of the land. And the land is all in their possession now, and these tribes, then these people, these warriors, return to their homes. And they go with, Joshua says to them, be careful and keep the charge of the Lord your God. Remain faithful, And so they go. He says, take care to observe the commandment and instruction of the Lord. And as they are going home and getting closer, they build an altar. And verse 10 says, when they came to the region near the Jordan that lies in the land of Canaan, they built there an altar of great size. And the rest of the Israelites get excited, upset by that, assuming that it's an altar to worship a false god, to go against God. And they say, hey man, we've got enough things that we've done wrong that we're still working for. Remember just not so long ago, we had this plague because of our sin. And so now it's, you can't do this because you're going to bring the wrath of God upon us, and this is all, conjecture on their parts, they're thinking. And so they send Phinehas, the son of the high priest Eleazar, and 10 other high-ranking officials to these people that are going back, that have built this altar. And they're going back to point the finger. You can't do this, you're going to bring the wrath of God down upon us. And we have no disrespect for God. We honor God. This is a reminder for us and for you that we are a part of your people, that we are worshiping God, and that it is there as a reminder to our children and our grandchildren and our prodigy from many years hence or past, that we are servants of the Lord. Verse 29, they say, far be it from us that we should rebel against the Lord and turn away from following him. That wasn't their intent, to stir up trouble, especially trouble with God. Yeah, you think about that. Why would we want to stir up trouble with God? I mean, this God who blesses us, this God who watches and keeps us. I mean, there's this God who loves and forgives us, and why would we want to stir up trouble against God, ourselves as well as these people? So anyway, the Phinehas and these other 10 that are with him realize then the sincerity of the building of the altar, that it isn't, to worship falsely, but it is honoring God and honoring their commitment to each other. They say in verse 31, today we know that the Lord is among us, because you have not committed this treachery against the Lord. You have saved the Israelites from the hand of the Lord. So they return then back to their promised land, to Joshua and everyone there, and so they realize that this altar is a witness, a testimony between the people, that they are all Israelites, even though some are living on the wrong side of the Jordan. The other side, so what? Chapter 23 begins with the words, a long time afterwards. So many years have passed now. The Israelites are in possession of the land. They've been living in peace. It says they've been given rest to Israel from their enemies all around. And Joshua was old and well advanced in years. He was 110, I think it tells us, when he died. And so chapter 23 is Joshua's final speech to the people, reminding them of who God is and of who Moses and their ancestors. And he starts out, I am old and well advanced in years. You have seen all that the Lord has done for you. To all of these nations for your sake, And it's a reminder then to continue to follow God, to continue to be faithful, to remember who God is, and to remember how God had led them. In verse 10, one of you puts flight to 1,000, since it's the Lord your God who fights for you, as he promised. Excuse me. And so he says in verse 14, I am now about to go the way of the earth. I mean, he realizes that his death is imminent and comes to that point. Chapter 24 continues this, and he gathers all of the Israelites, the tribes, the elders of the tribes, and reminds them again of who their ancestors are and of how God was faithful to their ancestors. And then in verse 14 of chapter 24, he really issues a challenge to them. And not only a challenge, but a promise and an example. He says, now, therefore, revere, honor the Lord, serve him in sincerity and faithfulness. Serve beyond the river of Egypt and serve the Lord. Now, if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve. You know, whether the gods your ancestors served in the region beyond the river, the gods of the Amorites in whose land you're living, you know, choose the God you're going to serve. And then here comes the kicker. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And so Joshua, his plea to them, it's, honor the Lord, choose this day whom you're going to serve, and then the example, as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And I think about that, for myself as well, my plan, my life, my hope is that I serve the Lord, that I'm faithful to the Lord. And this is who we should be. We should be people that are faithful to this God who gave his only son for us. This Sunday is Palm Sunday, the day that the crowds cheer and just greet Jesus with full joy before all of a sudden the turn. But it's that this is the joy we should have. I think about that, the joy that these people show on Palm Sunday as they lay their cloaks and the palm leaves and Hosanna to the Lord, Hosanna, Hosanna to the Lord in the highest, and they're excited. They're excited. And this is how we should be excited to serve the Lord our God. And to make that commitment as Joshua did, as for me and my household. He's speaking for his family. We will serve the Lord. And hopefully we can do that as well as we raise our children and our grandchildren. We are examples for them of serving God so that they too will continue to serve the Lord. Powerful statement, as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And then, he says to him, you can't serve the Lord and a false God. You got to remain faithful. And he says, put away the foreign, the people say, we too will serve, So Joshua says, well then, put away all your false idols. Get that out of your hearts and out of your minds. Incline your hearts and your minds to the Lord. Listen to God. And the Lord our God, the people say, the Lord our God, we will serve, and him we will obey. And we know how that goes for them too. The chapter ends with Joshua dying. 110 years old. They bury him in his own inheritance in that city that he had been designated for him. And then it also reminds us that the bones of Joseph, which the Israelites had brought up from Egypt, were buried at Shechem. And that was one of the promises to Joseph, this great ancestor that all of those years ago, that his bones too were brought along and laid to rest in the Promised Land. And the chapter ends then with Eleazar, the son of Aaron, dying as well, because Joshua and Eleazar were the two main leaders then of the Israelites after Moses had died, as this book had begun. And so it's another chapter in the history of the Israelites, and tomorrow we'll start the book of Judges.